It's made in the morning here on Alive 107.3. Very, very excited because this weekend, TNA Wrestling's biggest event of the summer, Slammiversary, goes down. Sunday, July 20th at the UBS Arena in Long Island. Limited tickets remain available. If you cannot be there in person, you can watch live on TNA Plus and, of course, on pay-per-view. And it is a stacked card. Already, we know the TNA World title on the line. Reigning champion NXT's Trick Williams defends against both Mike Santana and Scotland's own Joe Hendry. One woman will walk out with two belts, both the TNA Knockouts title and the NXT Women's Championship on the line. Masha Slamovich facing NXT's JC Jane, and the UK's own Leon Slater looks to make history, becoming the youngest ever X Division champion as he takes on Moose. It really is a phenomenal card. And one man that'll be up close calling all the action, the voice of TNA Wrestling, Mr. Smooth himself, Tom Hannifan, who I'm delighted to see joins me now. Tom, good morning.
That was very smooth what you did just there. I see what you did. I have been dying to go one-on-one with Lee Med. I have been tagged in posts of people bagging on me in different capacities on your show. I have been very much looking forward to this, but all kidding aside, pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Tom, for taking the time. I know it's a busy, busy few days for you. Obviously, TNA Impact aired last night on Access TV in the States. No spoilers, we have to say, just in case anyone here in the UK hasn't caught up with on TNA Plus just now. But what does the next 48 hours look like for you heading into Long Island at Slammiversary?
It's just getting all those last minute things organized, whether it be any notes or sponsors or anything that might be specific to this broadcast, the structure, the format, anything within the production element that needs to be communicated to commentary, all those little things just getting tightened up between now and then. And other than that, it's just getting safely from my home in Philadelphia to Long Island, New York. So hopefully that's a breeze. That should be the easiest part of it. But no, I'm so excited about this. I posted earlier on this week. It's my fourth Slammiversary, especially with Matthew Rehwoldt, my broadcast partner. I feel so fortunate and just very grateful to be a part of all of this and just to see the growth that TNA has had over the last few years to get to a point where we're in an NHL franchise's venue for one of our biggest events of the year to celebrate the 23-year history of TNA wrestling, our Slammiversary. It's just going to be fun, man.
It's going to be incredible, and there's so many things you mentioned there, Tom, that I'd like to touch on if I could. Obviously, you mentioned your broadcast colleague, the amazing Matthew Rehwoldt. I honestly believe, and I'm not just saying this, I honestly believe the two of you right now, possibly the best announced team in the business, and arguably I would say that the best announced team, uh, I think, since Mike Tenay and Don West in
Oh,
all of
very
professional
kind of you.
wrestling. I've been as people will tell you, I've been a massive TNA fan since day dot, since day one, and I think what Don and Mike were able to do was mix the amazing world of professional wrestling and entertainment perfectly, and but still carrying the gravitas that the action in the ring deserved. And I think what you and Matthew have been able to do is capture that, but put your own spin on it. I need to ask the question, how easy is it to work together for all these past few years now? How natural does that chemistry come? And what did it like going back to Bound for Glory a couple of years ago when the amazing Mike and Don were inducted into the Hall of Fame? Obviously, to have Mike throw it over to you to pass the baton, so to speak, coming onto the live pay-per-view. How did that actually feel? Because even looking back at it, as I did earlier today on TNA Plus, I kind of got some goosebumps.
You did, yeah. Well, first off, thank you. That compliment is immense. So that is not lost on me. So thank you very much for all the kind words. I'll speak first on Mike and Don going into the Hall of Fame, Bound for Glory. We didn't know that Mike was going to hand us the baton in that capacity on air. The first time I got to meet Mike was in person, was backstage that day. I had goosebumps. I was smiling ear to ear. Gail Kim was there, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad this is happening." It was really special. It was all I'd ever, wanted to do once I stepped foot in the company and realized that this was an avenue to have a relationship with Mike Tenay. And I am so fortunate I've been able to get on the phone with him every once in a while and pick his brain and get some insight and understand like how much we actually have in common. And even though just generations apart, but just see things very similarly. So that was incredible. And then to your point, like that was on the countdown show. And then like seconds later, it's the pay-per-view and it's our biggest pay-per-view of the year. It's like, no pressure, nothing like that. So we just try to collect ourselves and move forward. But I feel very strongly about representing the history of this company, the spirit, the tradition, the memory of this company. I take that as my personal responsibility. So when Don West passed, remembering Don, bringing forward important things when it comes to Don. And then especially with Mike, I try to bring him up or reference him as often as I can where appropriate within broadcasts. And I try and think about, hey, what would Mike have done? And I'm fortunate that I had Michael Cole as a mentor for many years to call Mike Tenay that, that mentor to me here in TNA has been invaluable. To your question about working with Matthew Rehwoldt, I want to strangle him on a regular basis. No, I'm kidding. We have known each other since I first got hired by WWE in 2012. So he was obviously wrestling, and I was just learning wrestling commentary, like broadcast media as a whole. I was 23 years old. So we got to know each other. And then in 2019, 2020, we actually started doing commentary together. Pandemic came. He was laid off. I was laid off the year later. So everybody goes through some changes, and then just the universe brought us back together, and it's just been simple, easy, and the communication has been great. He is a friend, period, and it's been wonderful to just get on the air and we have our fun and we jab at each other. I am a big fan of the days of Monsoon and Heenan, so I try to bring that type of vibe. I care about that type of vibe on air, and you don't always have the time to do that, and it's knowing when you have the time to do that. And we know the matches where we can have some fun. He loves to have fun with like the Elegance brand, for instance. I know I'm going to have to speak for maybe 20% of that matchup because he's going to have a field day, and it's so entertaining. But then when it comes to being serious and taking care of business, he doesn't miss. I feel very confident in my abilities. I feel very confident in us as a team. Um, Wrestling is so subjective. When you look at commentary teams, people like commentators for a myriad of different reasons. So it's an art form at the end of the day, just like what it is for the wrestlers. So we just hope that we can put the appropriate lyrics to the music at the end of the day.
Just on that, if I can, how difficult is it to actually get your head around everything that's going on when you first break into the wrestling broadcast platform? Because I mean, there's plenty of people, we've seen them out there try it to varying degrees of success. If people are out there just now thinking, actually, you know something, I would like to try and break into that part of the business, what would you recommend they do?
You have to commit to this full time. And I'm not just saying like, oh, you have to, be a full-time worker in the industry. I think that's the goal of anybody. You have to be on the proverbial hamster wheel 24/7. You have to constantly be thinking about it, working on it, attempting to get better. When I first got hired by WWE in 2012, I was told it'll take me 10 years to understand the psychology of the business. And that was completely right. And I'm still learning things every single day now, 13 years in. So it's not easy. I think there's a lot of people that just look at commentary and they're like, oh, I can do that. I know every move in the book, that sort of thing. Okay, well, do you understand how to integrate a sponsor, pitch to a video package, stretch when you need to, stretch in terms of time? What happens when there's an injury? How do you call a squash match versus a dusty finish? Like there's all these million layers that I could go through. We'd be here all day, but it's extremely complicated. It's one of those things of you think you know, but you have no idea. I'm fortunate that I've gotten to learn from so many intelligent people that have helped me get to where I am today. And Rehwoldt and I, it's taken years for us to get to the point that we are now individually and then as a team. So I'm very grateful to have all of those experiences.
How do you feel the dynamic changes? Because obviously, because TNA's got its flagship show Impact. Obviously, we've got the premium live events, but also we have shows such as Explosion on TNA Plus, where you'd work alongside Mean Gia Miller. A somewhat different dynamic there as well.
A little bit
Just,
different, yeah.
just a little bit. And also last week as well, you had the chance to catch up with WCW legend Mark Madden. Again, so how quickly does that adaptation come in when you have guests coming in, whether it be wrestlers, whether it be managers, whether it be Gia or somebody like Mark as well, but still keep that authenticity and that level of gravitas that you have to have throughout all the play-by-play.
It's years of repetition, honestly, because you talk about having an additional commentator or something like that, and that's not even covering when you have a guest on commentary, for instance, a wrestler that their objective is to get over themselves, get over their storyline. It's a very different situation than just, I've worked three-man booths where it's a heel color commentator and a babyface color commentator and then kind of a unbiased play-by-play guy. And now I'm in a situation where I'm a babyface play-by-play guy with a heel color commentator. Say you add another heel commentator, or you add a heel wrestler or a babyface wrestler. The dynamic changes every single time, and it changes with the personality, the character, the human being,
Mm.
period. So it's just been reps for over a decade now, getting used to it and understanding that everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. So there's plenty of times where I have to set aside what I would like to accomplish, and then it's what do I need to get done? And any amount of airtime that I typically would get, hey, if that has to go down a percentage point and it makes this segment better, it makes this person perform better, then you do that. That's just what the business calls for. So we have a lot of really talented people, and the fun thing I'm experiencing lately, because we've had a lot more guests on commentary, is a lot of people who've never done it before or only have a handful of experiences, and they may not all be here. Some were in WWE, some were in AEW, some were on the indies. It's a completely different experience when you go from cutting a promo as a talent, backstage interview, whatever you want to call it, to sitting there and trying to get over an angle and doing it in sound bites. So we do our best to try and make sure that those segments are committed to that person, and we try and set them up for success as best we can.
I want to talk about Slammiversary in just a minute, but there's one final thing I do need to ask. If we're talking about the broadcast side of it, and yourself behind the desk there, Tom, also when you joined TNA, it was Impact Wrestling. You were there for the rebirth. Were you aware of the extra gravitas? Did you feel the extra pressure coming into that first PLE, that hard to kill event back in 2024 in Las Vegas? How did you feel any change on that night apart from the obvious? You know where I'm going with that.
Well, Nick Nemeth showed up, so that that changed everything. No, that honestly, Nick Nemeth showing up at the end of the show was
Hmm.
incredible. I don't know if the story is the same without Nick. I don't think it is at all, but I think it changes so much because he showed up. To your question, I felt a tremendous amount of pressure at Final Resolution in
Hmm.
2023, which was the last show under the Impact Wrestling banner. And the last match under the banner, I knew I had to say something to say, like, hey, this is ending, and people have their opinions about what Impact Wrestling was,
Hmm.
but there's still a lot of things that need to be respected and heralded from that era. So we can't just say, we're done with that. We're going back to our roots, that sort of thing. The effort that went into those years needs to be respected. So I attempted as best as I could to give credit to those years and all the people that went into that. And
Hmm.
then once we got to Hard to Kill in 2024, to your point, it was bringing forward these things from the past and really doing your homework to make sure that you're respecting the elements of TNA's history that are being reflected in that broadcast. But honestly, it was so exciting. There was just so much fun, and the energy was palpable that night in Las Vegas. It was kind of easy to get up for it, if it
Hmm.
makes any sense. Like pay-per-views, the big ones, are often the easiest ones to do because you're just so geeked up for it.
We are talking with Tom Hannifan, the voice of TNA Wrestling. Do not go anywhere.
The standard has changed now. I call the shots.
I need you for my redemption. When you mention the world title, you mention my damn name. Hendrick Williams, Santana, the main event.
The future of TNA Wrestling hangs in the balance.
TNA Wrestling presents Slammiversary, Sunday, July 20th. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com.
It's Made in the Morning here live 107.3 Friday morning this weekend. Big weekend for me and wrestling fans across the globe as TNA Slamversary comes your way Sunday night, of course, on TNA Plus. If you haven't already subscribed, head on over watch.tnawrestling.com for all the details, because remember, you haven't seen anything until you've seen everything. Tom Hannifan, the voice of TNA Wrestling, should still be with me. Tom, are you there, my friend?
Yes, sir. I'm dying to continue this conversation.
He says with such enthusiasm. Tom, heading into this weekend, obviously it is a stacked card. It is absolutely incredible. And we know the top of that is going to see the TNA World title on the line. NXT's Trick Williams defending against the realist Mike Santana and the man that the world believes in, Joe Hendry. What's it like in the locker room just now? What's it like in the business of TNA, knowing that the world title is not being held by a TNA contracted wrestler?
It's not ideal. I think for a lot of people, even Nick Nemeth refused to shake Trick Williams' hands a few weeks ago during the Champions Challenge. You have people like Frankie Kazarian, who at one point will say, "Oh, it's a disgrace," and then on Impact last night, he's tagging with him. So it's just everybody has a different opinion on it. And that First Class, in my opinion, betrayed this company. And then you have people like Mike Santana who believe it's their mission in life to bring that title back to this company. So there's certainly been mixed opinions. I've made my opinion very, very clear on the air. I think people know what I'm talking about. And I'm hoping that the math is in TNA's favor this weekend. I'll put it that way. 2 opportunities in a match where the champion does not have to be pinned or submitted. 2 opportunities in Joe Hendry and Mike Santana for the title to come back home to a TNA wrestler. So I am hoping that's the outcome, because I believe Trick cares about Trick regardless of anything he might spew.
What do you think the odds are for Leon Slater? Obviously, Britt, a phenomenal success since he arrived in TNA Wrestling, could make history this weekend, going up against the Mr. TNA Wrestling over the past few years. Moose, an amazing X Division champion. If you want to be honest, he's caught me off guard by how good he has been within that X Division. What does Leon Slater have to do to make history this weekend at Slammiversary?
Yeah, Moose harkens back to some super heavyweight X Division champions we've had in the past, like the TNA Hall of Famer Abyss, the likes of Lashley, the likes of Samoa Joe, Brian Cage. There's been some bigger, more dominant athletes that have held that championship. So with that comes an enormous challenge for Leon Slater. This absolutely feels like David versus Goliath. Now, both men are chasing their individual records. Moose is trying to become the longest reigning X Division champion of all time. Leon Slater wants to become the youngest X Division champion of all time. At the core of this is a young man in Leon Slater who is 20 years old and has been working at this craft for 11 years. For him to take this step to capture his first championship in TNA Wrestling and take that first major step towards perhaps becoming the face of the company, I think that path is viable for Leon Slater, but it has to start against Moose at Slammiversary.
It's going to be an amazing night. Of course, you can watch it live, as we say, watch.tnawrestling.com to subscribe to Slammiversary. One man who, as it stands right now, is not on the Slammiversary card, but has really stood up and made his presence felt the past couple of weeks. In my opinion, the international champion, Steve Mlin. He has really been front and center flag bearer since that world title has been taken by Trick Williams. What do you think the future holds for Steve Mlin? If we look, because obviously we know Slammiversary this weekend, Bound for Glory upcoming in October, where do you think we could see Steve Mlin between now and then?
I think Steve Mlin has dealt with a tremendous amount of pressure, having won the TNA International Championship, being the first TNA International Champion. So with that comes a lot of pressure to make the championship, to give it an identity, to set a standard. I think he has done that tenfold. I won't give away anything that might be going on this weekend because I don't know when this airs, but I would recommend people check out social media, that sort of stuff. You never know what can happen. But I'll say this, one of our biggest events ever, and if Steve Mlin isn't a part of it, I'd be stunned. He is bulletproof for a reason. He is as hard-headed as he is talented, and he is going to get what he wants, and he is going to fight for every last thing. So I know Steve very well.
TNAWrestling.com, of course, for all the latest. All right, there's just two more things we need to do. Carlos Silva, president, we spoke to him earlier this week. He was very, very excited about Slammiversary this weekend. And then less than 24 hours later, Tuesday, I believe it was, he announced additional tickets being made available at the UBS, pushing the stage back. This is obviously going to be arguably the biggest night in TNA wrestling, but he done something very, very interesting, Tom. He said it was going to be a phenomenal night.
Did he?
He
Did
did.
he say that?
He did. Just between you, me, and the listeners.
That's incredible.
What do you think would happen if AJ Styles showed up on Sunday night?
Oh my goodness. If it's a moment that TNA fans have dreamed of for years, for over a decade now. But I don't know anything. I'm just the guy who sits there and yells really loudly while matches are going on. So anything can happen in this crazy world of professional wrestling of ours. Never say never. Just have to see what happens Sunday at Slammiversary. That's a very interesting word he used.
It is, isn't it? It is very interesting. All right, here we go. Right, Tom. Final thing. If you're up for this, we always like to do it when we
This is why I came on this show. Are you kidding?
All right, we're talking about the name game. I have in front of me the names of 5 TNA performers. I would like the first thing that comes into your head if you're up for this.
Let's do it.
Kraken. Name number 1, Brian Myers.
Ginger.
Tessa Blanchard.
Diamond.
Casey Navarro.
Ooh. Limitless.
Gia Miller.
There's 2 words, but wildly talented.
And name number 5, which is normally the Tom Hannifan slot. You know
yeah,
what?
I've noticed that. Why am I always last?
Save the best for last. Save the best for last. Because usually, if you want to be honest, Tom, whenever I ask about you, people usually have some sort of story to accompany it.
Really? Interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
which is good. So name number 5, your broadcast colleague, Matthew Rehwoldt.
Bald. Oh, wait. No, you're mostly bald. So, like, kind of, he's mostly bald. I mean, he shaves it down. Bald.
You couldn't make this up. You really couldn't. Keep up to date with everything that's going on in TNA by heading over to TNAWrestling.com, where you can sign up to TNA Plus and catch all the latest TNA action, including Sunday's Slammiversary. Head on over right now and get set for a weekend of action. I'm delighted to say this has been the most fun I've had in a long, long time. Tom Hannifan, the voice of TNA Wrestling, thank you so much for taking the time, my friend.
Lee, thank you. Really appreciate it.